Thank you, John. In this webinar, as John said, we're going to be looking at talent management. We're going to first of all determine what we mean by talent and also what we mean by talent management. And then we'll develop some models that we can use to help manage talent. And then we're going to look at who we might want to have in the talent pool and discover that talent management is actually a continuous process. So what do we mean when we talk about talent? If we look at the dictionary definition, then that term means that talent's all about natural aptitude or skill. And that sounds good because that's what we want in our firms. And we want people with a natural ability to do something and to do it well. So from a business viewpoint, talent refers to people in the business who make a difference by contributing today or in the longer term based on their potential. So surely this is what we want in every business. After all, we're only going to recruit people who meet our role requirements, aren't we? Well, we've immediately introduced the idea that some people might be expected to excel. We're going to tap into their potential. Whereas if we're recruiting those who meet the role requirements based in the job description, then we're expecting them to perform their role as listed in their job description. So following on from our definition of talent, it stands to reason that talent management is about the process of dealing with our employees and controlling what they do. We hope that by managing them effectively, they'll perform at the level that we need them to. Talent management is actually about more than just managing. It's about putting in place activities and processes that help attract, retain, motivate, and develop the talent needed in the business. And the implication is that it's not about performance today, but about evolving to meet the performance needs of the business tomorrow. So sticking with our plant analogy for a few minutes, we buy seeds, we grow seedlings, and we nurture them. We water them, and we ensure that they don't get too much sun. Difficult this weather, but we ensure they don't get too much sun, and we make sure that they don't dry out. We treat them all the same. They grow into healthy plants that need more water, more attention to ensure that they remain healthy. And eventually they turn into wonderful blooms that give us great enjoyment. But some plants don't make it. No matter how much Miracle-Gro we throw at them, they don't produce the blooms that we expect to see. They're adequate, giving some flowers, and you need to make a decision. Do you continue to feed Miracle-Gro in the hope that you'll get the blooms you want? Do you spend money on Miracle-Gro? Or do you just use water, which is going to be much more cost effective? And so what about slow-growing plants? Do you use Miracle-Gro on them? Or do you manage them with water only? There are lots of decisions that need to be made. And it's all about strategy. And talent management can be considered in the same way as our plants here. Do you treat everyone in the same way once you've selected them and inducted them into the business? Or do you select those people you think will perform best, those who show potential, and only invest in those people? An interesting and perhaps controversial question that we'll leave hanging for the minute. So as we've established that talent management is about making sure that the business has the right people in the right jobs. But more than that, the right people in the right jobs always. And this wheel depicts the sub-processes that make up your talent management strategy. I'm not going to cover this in any more detail other than to say that talent management is predicated on the fact that talent is selected in the first place. So now back to our question, who do we develop? We're going to look at two models that can be used to help business manage and develop talent. And these models may help in deciding who we train and who we develop. So the first one was developed by General Electric, and it's known as the GE9 model. And you've got this in your workbook. Lots of people have created different versions of this matrix. So if you've come across it before, you're going to perhaps see different names in the boxes and a different orientation in some cases. So this model measures the employee's current performance on the vertical axis and future potential on the horizontal axis. Each employee gets allocated to a box, and each box is given a meaning and suggests the course of action perhaps that you should take with the employees in that box. High performing, high potential employees are your star performers. The top box there on the right hand side on the top row. They're your potential future leaders, and you should aim to retain these employees, reward them, promote them, and develop them. High performers with medium potential, that's the centre box on the top row, they're your rising stars. They may not be future potential, but they can develop in their current roles, and you should be looking after them, rewarding them, developing them, and recognising them. Your solid performers, they have low potential but high performance. They're perhaps experts in the job that they do, and they're likely to stay in the same role, and they'll keep performing at a high level. And they could possibly be mentors for others in the organisation in the same or similar roles. And you should aim with these people to retain them and ensure that their skills are kept up to date. So that's the top row taken care of. Let's think about the people in the middle row. High potential but medium performance. They're the little rockets and they're aiming for the stars. So they're likely to become your star performers in the future. And with them, you need to let them master their current role and give them a career path that mapped out for them. Aim to develop their skills and give them a good career path and retain them if you can. Steady performers are just that. They're solid talent. And this group should be developed. But you should monitor performance with these people as they can move to any of the other 8 boxes because they're in the middle there. The inconsistent performer has low potential and medium performance. They're likely to be on target as far as performance is concerned. They're cruising. They've perhaps reached the limit of their potential, but the aim with this group is to develop their skills and, if possible, try and motivate them to improve their performance. So that leaves us with the bottom row, the low performers. So the potential gems, they've got high potential, but they're performing at a low level. This may be because they lack the skills they need to perform in their job and in the roles that they're expected to undertake. They may be moved into a new job without correct level of support and training. And the best intervention here is to determine what training is required to harness the potential and improve their performance. Average performers, well, they exhibit low performance as a result of reaching their potential in many cases. Interventions here are needed to determine if full potential has been reached and what can be done to improve their performance. And the final box is labelled risk. Those with low performance and low potential. And they're not performing at the level that's required. These are often employees who are put in a corner and ignored, and we've all had some of those people in our organisations. They cause problems because they block roles and offer little in the way of performance, and there's certainly no potential to put them into any other roles. Employees in this box need to be performance managed into adjacent boxes or out of the business if they're unable to perform to an acceptable level. So taking this model as a whole, the blue boxes represent employees with high potential or high performance or both. And these are your retain at all cost employees. The brown boxes are your try and retain and develop group. Those in the orange boxes, they may come good. And that pink box at the bottom, that's employees with poor performance and no potential. And perhaps, as I've already mentioned, their career lies somewhere else. So how does it actually work? Well, you set a threshold and you name the 9 boxes, whatever you choose. In this example, for the thresholds, I've used 55% and 90% to differentiate low, medium and high performance, and 40 and 75% for potential. Once you've done that, you need to list all your employees and their performance and potential and get their scores, and then map their scores against the criteria that you've decided on your map. So once you've done that, you can then step back and review the state of the talent within your business. So what are the drawbacks perhaps of this model? Well, getting consistency in the way that people are assessed will be critical. Managers using this tool will need to be trained so that they can administer the tool in the same way right across the organisation. the results should be such that they can be replicated by a different user and still get the same results. And this 9-box tool is very prescriptive, assigning people to a particular box based on the score that they've been given. Big question is, how do we move people into other boxes? Does the fact that we label someone as potential gem, a star performer, or a risk colour how we manage them? Does it colour our thoughts on whether or not they're worthy of the money and the time invested in them to develop them? This is another model that the UK Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development created, and this is much simpler than the GE 9-box model. There are no fancy labels here, and it simply considers competency and performance. There's no getting away from the assumption that people can be divided into different groups, and in this example, CIPD have made some assumptions about the percentage of people lying in each box. In reality, the business will determine what percentage of staff they expect or require in each sector. And this tool's been designed for management use when discussing talent within the firm. So, how does it work? Well, the 5% in the bottom left-hand box should be moved out of this box if possible. Again, as with the previous model, their talent might lie elsewhere, either in a different business or in a different role, a different team or department in your own business. Remember earlier we talked about recruitment and selection being an earlier enabler of talent management? Well, perhaps some of these 5% in this box are there because recruitment and selection process is perhaps not as robust as it should be. This begs the question, whose fault is it when an employee enters this quadrant? And the supplementary question, are we going to use Miracle-Gro to help them grow in their competence, motivation and performance? So, what about employees identified as talent and future talent? They need to be managed and provided with training necessary to ensure that they continue to perform at the level needed based on their current job description. In addition, they're going to need additional training and development in preparation for their future jobs. Ideally, future talent should become talent, and some will bypass this route altogether, moving immediately into top talent. And these in the top talent group are the future leaders within the business. Finally, we need to think about our top talent. We train and develop them to move on to new jobs. They're part of our succession plan. And it's not always possible to keep everyone, and some of this top talent will be lost to competitors, to retirement, and the need to sail off around the world sometimes. Some change is healthy in business, but we must replace the missing top talent with others that are moving through the segments. There's no set route, it's completely fluid, and if we believe that talent management is beneficial, then the aim should be to keep employees moving towards that top talent box. Perhaps reviewing what training they're given if it becomes apparent that they've reached their potential. So the two matrix models we've just discussed map out the current state of employees. It's then for the user to determine which box they want to actually move the person into. And the models that we've just been talking about don't actually aid that process, but this tool will. And you've got this on the front page of your workbook. So here there are 8 competencies, and these are the 8 great, what are called the 8 great competencies, and they're developed by somebody called Bartram, and he asserted that all competencies fit into these 8. And competency is the ability to apply knowledge, understanding, and skills in order to meet the standard required in the job. So these 8 competencies cover specific component competencies which will underlie this. So let's think about analysing and interpreting on this wheel. And we can think about things that fall within that. So what we can say is that we've got the, in this one, we've got the person as a trainee, so that's the grey line. We want them to be a practitioner, the yellow line. And that gives us our gap analysis. And now we know what we need to do to move them from trainee through supervised practitioner and on to practitioner. Drilling down the competencies, we need to consider here what might be the perhaps an ability to write clearly and fluently. We might need them to improve in the application of technical expertise and testing and investigation. what we are looking at are all the elements that will get them from trainee to practitioner underneath the analysing and interpreting competency. Interventions can then be developed to move the employee forward, and this is actually talent management in action. And you can play with this Great 8 tool on our website. If you navigate to the tools page and select Grow Your People, you can then set current level and required level. And in reality, you would then choose what you wanted in the labels, and you can have as many spokes as you want to. But you've got a tool there that you can play with. So, how do you go about facilitating talent management? Well, there are several things you can do which will facilitate talent management and your succession planning. So, what's the first thing you can do? You can determine what your business strategy is. What are the core competencies you need? And it's these that's going to actually form the basis for your competency framework, which you would use in that tool we've just been looking at. We work with clients who've developed frameworks of varying complexity, some very prescriptive, some more open. And in all cases, the common theme is matching the competencies needed in the business and then determining what performance looks like at each of these 4 levels, from trainee to expert. You can run a training needs analysis. What needs to change? And in many firms, this is linked to performance appraisal discussions when training plans are agreed. You can consolidate the people resources you have within the business. It's cheaper to train people that you already have and move them through the boxes because they've got an understanding of your business. It's easier to deal with them than to start from scratch with new employees. You can develop a pipeline of ready talent. This is your succession planning. So you can model who can be developed. Which roles might they move into? What skills will they need to be ready to move? And do you even know if they might be interested in a new role with you? Think about what options are available for development. It's not only promotion. Think about employee rotation, sideways moves into another department, into another job. Consider also having technical and managerial development routes. Not all employees want to be people managers, and not all employees are good at being people managers, but sometimes they've got the technical expertise within their field, and you can utilise and make good use of that. Finally, review what your competitors are doing. After all, that's where your talented people are likely to move to. So talent management is a continuous process. We start with a business case. What's our strategy? What skills and competencies do we need? How do we get them? Do we train people, resources we have, or do we bring in new people to train? We need to assess how employees are performing in their role. Do we meet the requirements? Do they meet the requirements that we place on them? And if not, why not? Do we need to train them, or do we need to manage them out? For all of these, we need to identify what talent we want to keep, and we've got to put in place interventions to manage these people. And we must continuously review the skills and competencies available to us against those that we want within the business. And as mentioned earlier, our ultimate goal is to have the right people in the right job always. So that's a quick run through of setting out the process of development, looking at some of the tools that are available for you to use, and how you can manage your talent within your business. So what I'm going to do is hand back to John and see if we have any questions.